What is this large coconut that you brought? What's the deal with that?
Well, this isn't exactly a coconut, but
What is it?
now look here. See how well this looks like it's all one piece.
Right?
It's a perfect fit. Now,
What is it?
inside,
That's not a coconut?
no, inside you have if this is just picked off the tree, this would be a fruit, and in each fruit you'd have a seed. This is exactly how Brazil nuts grow. And the reason for all this armor plating around is this. There's a bat with a more than 2-foot wingspan and that disperses the seeds of this tree. And this tree doesn't, bats are such, most people aren't aware of this, but bats are by far the best, the most effective long-distance seed dispersers and pollinators in the world.
More than bees?
Oh, much more.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And so here's what happens with this. This hangs down like this, 100 feet up in a big tree.
So that's like a tree pod, like a pod
Right.
for seeds.
Right. And when it's ready to be seed dispersed, it opens just a crack enough to let the scent out, and there's this big bat that knows exactly how to pry this loose. The reason for all this armor plating is that the plant does not want monkeys or other primates or parrots or other birds. It just wants bats because bats are the best seed dispersers, and so it's going to all this energetic trouble to protect itself from everything but bats. The bat pries this off.
So that just kind of falls open? It opens up a little bit, and then the bat pries it the rest of the way? So it's almost like it's just a little built-in door.
Yeah. And then he carries this. This would be a fruit. This is dried with the seed inside. He carries this away and drops the seed when he finishes eating. And in fact, this nut that's in this fruit would be commercially sold if we could figure out how to beat the bats to it, but it's grown way up high on trees, and we don't have a system for beating the bats to it.
And this is Brazil nuts. Can I see that?
This is...
Is that Brazil nuts?
This is very similar to Brazil nuts.
What is it called?
Sapicaya.
And these are edible?
Yes.
Like we can crack this sucker open and eat it?
Yeah.
What's it taste like?
I don't know. I've never eaten one.
Really? But you have all these. You're not curious? If I was you, I'd be eating bats. I'd be trying out these
I would
seeds.
eat them, but I've never been able to beat the bats to them.
And these aren't good, the ones you have here in this thing? Are they dried up?
Oh, they're dried up long since.
It's fascinating because it seems like it's been cut. It's crazy that this is just a natural feature in the seed pod. And if you, the people that are not watching this, just listening to this, it seems just like a coconut. It's so thick and hard. You can hear it here. I'll knock on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very hard and very big, like a bowling ball.
The coevolution between bats and plants is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
We haven't talked at all about pollination. This is just about seed dispersal.
Yeah.
There are flowers, a whole suite of different kinds of flowers that produce reflectors to guide bats to them on dark nights. Flowers that bloom in dense foliage where bats have a hard time finding them. They produce reflectors out of either their petals or a leaf turned up the wrong way. That there's a vine in Cuba that the flowers hang down on a long stem, and then the last leaf above where the flowers are turns exactly upside down. Instead of going this way to catch sunlight to photosynthesize, it turns around this way and then acts as a reflector. Let's see, that's one that does that, but it's not the one I'm talking about.
But it's a similar
effect.
effect.
The red one. Now that's a hummingbird there, but look, I want to show you something while we're on that. See how the reproductive organs, the anthers and stigma, are up there above the bird's head.
Yeah.
That bird is too small to fill the gap, and I took over 400 pictures of that for National Geographic, and never once saw one of those hummingbirds touch the reproductive organs of the flower. It was thought for probably 100 years that this plant was pollinated by hummingbirds. But when later I photographed bats coming to it, the bats filled up that gap and got covered in pollen.
Ah, wow. Interesting.
Now, one of the flowers you first showed, you can see all these on my website.
Merlin, talking to the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can see all these probably on my website. Let's see. I'm trying to... Okay, watch this one. The one you've got up now. That bat is pollinating mucuna flowers.
So all that stuff that's coming off of those flowers, that's all the pollen.
That's pollen.
And that's going to get on him, and then he's going to disperse that.
Yeah, it took me 11,000 pictures to get that picture.
That's an amazing picture. Look at his tongue poking out.
National Geographic must have invested close to $70,000 in getting that.
Well, it's worth it. Look at that. I mean, it's really cool.
But I got a whole series where he's coming, and see that turned up petal that's right in front of his tongue?
Yes.
That's the reflector for that flower that guides the bat to find the flower. It acts like airport landing lights on a runway for a pilot at night.
See, I don't know much about bat vision, but I always thought bats had very poor vision, and they used sound, and they used like a radar to find where they're going.
They have quite good vision, most of them, but in addition, they can see everything with sound that we can except color. And they can see a lot more that we can't. Like a bat would know if from the reflection off my hand that it was a soft surface as opposed to this mic being a hard surface.
Really? Because I had always heard that they used echolocation because their eyesight was poor. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Let me finish that story about that mucuna flower.
Sure.
The flower so wants to be pollinated, and I don't want to be anthropomorphic, but it's very advantageous to be visited by oh, here's the other one. See how the bat fills up the gap and carries pollen?
Yeah.
In the mucuna flowers, the flower doesn't even open and become reproductively active until about 45 minutes after dark, so that it's totally avoiding any late-coming hummingbirds or bees or anything like that. It's on a long stem that hangs down so that possums or anything like that can't get to it, and it opens late, and then it has just a little slit that's a millimeter or two wide, and the tongue of the bat has to go into that just like a lock, a key in a door in a lock. And when
wow, that is fascinating.
That's a different kind of flower.
Look at the tongue.